afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my show. Oh, I see we have a nice full crowd here, but we also have some on my right. Hello, how do you do? Now, there's one thing I wish to address before I begin this show. It's something that comes up very, very often. It's about my appearance. This isn't a wig. Now, I agree, it looks like a wig, but ask yourself this. Why would I wear a wig? I like being bald. I've been asked to talk to you about my life. Now, obviously, this is a great privilege for you all, as I seldom deign to talk about myself. I find it makes other people feel very inadequate, and I am a very caring person. I have to tell you that I am privately educated, but I'll do my best to keep my talk down to your level. I nearly refused to talk at all, but I finally accepted after a great deal of pressure was put upon me, and I finally agreed to accept a larger fee. Now, after I had accepted this vastly increased fee, that the man who booked me said, "It was a pleasure talking to you. You are very brave." Well, I didn't know what to say. I don't think I'm particularly brave. I've always found public speaking to be very easy. He said that I was a marvellous man. I warmed to him a little, and I said that I will, of course, be donating my fee to charity. But I haven't decided which one yet. I suppose you all think we should be donating it to an animal charity. That's us, a nation of animal lovers. Yes, we prefer foxes to our next door neighbours. That's certainly true in my case. Mr. and Mrs. Andrews do dreadful things. Oh, no, they're not sexual deviants, nothing like that. I have seen them dressed head to toe in black rubber, but that apparently is normal weekend wear, so they tell me. They look very disdainfully at me with my green cords and taupe turtleneck, which I believe is correct weekend attire. Strange people. But I have noticed when looking out of our loft extension window. Oh, yes, we have a loft extension because we only have 3 bedrooms. My son has one, my daughter has one, and my wife has one. So we had to extend into the loft so that I had somewhere to sleep. It was because my wife said I made unreasonable sexual demands on her. Well, I didn't think once a year on my birthday was unreasonable. She did, and I ended up in the loft. But there are advantages to being up high. I can see a lot. By accident, obviously, of course. I mean, I'm not one of those perverts who spends their entire lives watching what other people do. And I can prove this by assuring you it's exceedingly difficult to look out of our loft extension window. I have to stand on a chair and bend to the right and get my binoculars in the exact correct position. It's extremely difficult not to topple over. But when I do get into the correct position, I can see the Andrews front garden quite clearly. And I have noticed on many occasions that they have behaved in an appallingly antisocial way. I have observed closely that they have not put their wheelie bin out on the correct day. Now, suppose you're wondering if I did the right thing and reported them to the council. I thought about it, but it seemed like a very sneaky, unneighbourly thing to do. But my honesty prevailed, and I rang the council. I won't tell you what that trumped up nobody at the waste collection department called me, but I said to him as quick as a flash, "I'm not taking any abuse from you. I was privately educated." He then fined me £500. Outrageous! It turns out Tuesdays is wheelie bin day. I always thought it was Thursdays. An easy mistake to make. So I no longer look at the Andrews. But if I bend to the left, I can see into the Smarts' bedroom. There's a little side window, and if my binoculars are in full strength, the view is as clear as a bell. I can see straight into their bedroom. I won't tell you what they get up to on a Sunday morning. I have to get up particularly early to see this. All right, I'll tell you. They play Scrabble in bed. But the problem is, they're not very good, and they're terrible with their X's. I mean, it's no use in playing an X if you can't get it on a triple word score. Everyone knows that. He's hopeless. Mr. Smart's hopeless. He puts his X's anywhere. I sometimes see the obvious word, and that's what caused the problem with the police. I saw the opportunity and I was crying out, "Sex! Sex! Sex! Sex!" And I was charged with breach of the peace. I'm in court next week. I did try to explain to the policeman, who looked about 12, that I was just calling out for sex. And he said, "I understand your frustration, mate, but do it quietly next time." Obviously, an aficionado of Scrabble. I'm still at a quandary as to who I should give my fee to. I'll be honest, I have a certain resentment towards cats. Indeed, they have a natural superiority which is completely unfounded, as they haven't had a private education. I doubt many of them have been to school at all. And I don't like tortoises either. They look at you suspiciously. I'm always slightly concerned that they'll crawl out of their shell and grab me by the throat. Fanciful thinking, you might think. But if they were so innocent, why did I need that shell to protect them? You hadn't thought of that, have you? Of course. It takes a privately educated intellectual to think about tortoises. And I loathe rabbits. What are they put on this earth for? Twitching about and copulating all the time. What use is that? At it, day and night. All right, I admit it, I'm jealous of rabbits. In fact, that's decided me. I'll keep the fee for myself. Rabbits have a good enough time as it is without partying on my hard-earned money. My name is Raymond Bishop. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've heard of me. You've heard that name before. But that's not me. Not the Raymond Bishop who walked across the Niagara Falls on a tightrope. Can you imagine that? What balance? Oh, balance. All he had to help him was a long pole. It's strange that the book thought that I was brave, when there was another Raymond Bishop who is really brave. You would have thought he'd ask him to speak rather than me. I don't think the booker was very bright. He said, "I suppose you have to wear special shoes." I was taken aback. How did he know that I've got a bunion? I said to him rather tartly that my own shoes were my own affair. He then asked about my long pole. Well, I nearly refused to give the talk at all, right there and then. But then you wouldn't have heard me, and that would have been a great loss in your lives. I never liked the name Raymond. It doesn't have a noble ring to it. When I introduce myself, I say, "My friends call me Ray." Ray sounds brilliant and glowing. You can practically see the sun shining, and you can imagine me in a halo of gold. So yes, I say, call me Ray. But strangely enough, nobody ever has. My surname, Bishop, is misleading. Now, I wish to assure you that I am in no way religious. But I do go to church on a Sunday because, well, that is the done thing. And I am rather partial to hearing the choir sing. Mixed ages, but a good smattering of young people. Some very young. Some very blonde, looking like little angels. I applied to join the choir, but I was rejected because I couldn't sing. I said to the choir master, "Of course I can sing." And he laughed derisively, laughing at me. So I went to a higher authority. I went straight to God and I said, "Please make me able to sing." And as it was me, he did. Well, I think he did. Next day in the shower, my voice sounded sublime. I went straight back to the choir master and I said, I can sing now. God has given me a wonderful voice. Listen. And he said, it's a shame God didn't fix your ears. I didn't want to join his choir anyway. I walked away with my head held high. So you see, being a bishop doesn't mean that you are in any way religious. Oh, you're thinking about me praying to God. Well, that's not religious. Who else would you pray to? So, being a bishop is simply a surname. I always thought it was a surname when I was young. S-I-R. A surname. A knighted man's name. Like Sir Lancelot. I've always associated myself with Sir Lancelot. He was irresistible to women. As am I. Madam, you at the front, I can see that you are in agreement with me. Can I ask for your name?
Aida.
Aida? Oh, how exotic. I'll remember that. Aida. Yes, I'm like Sir Lancelot. Oh, but I imagine you thought I was more like Sir Galahad, didn't you? I'm brave, gracious, and charming. Didn't you, Aida? She's in agreement. I mean, I do have one or two of his fine qualities, which makes me even more attractive to the ladies. And I can show you more later on after the show, if you wish. Sure, Len. So, I'm not going to patronize you for your lack of understanding of history, Latin, the classics, the great English poets, and any other gaps in your knowledge. I shall patiently explain to you any references that I may use so that you don't feel too inferior. I'm always caring to the ill-educated. So, let's take this slowly, shall we? Sir Lancelot and Sir Galahad were two knights of the Round Table, created by King Arthur to promote equality. Now, I believe entirely in equality. We could all achieve equality effortlessly if everyone was rich. Now, the Round Table may have been legend, but may have been historical. I do give a lecture on the subject. It's awfully good. But I haven't been asked to talk to you about that this afternoon. I fear it would be beyond your intelligence, and I wouldn't want to emphasize your intellectual inadequacy. I mean, I'm always caring to the ill-educated. So, let's stick to the fascinating subject at hand. Me. Although I can be complicated. Few brilliant academics often are. I am a perfect example of a hard-working, happily married, very intelligent and, I would say attractive, but my modesty prevents it. If I'm honest, and I always am, I feel that my happiness has taken a bit of a dip. You see, I always find it very odd that people take offense at being called a fucking idiot when they are. I mean, if I was to say to somebody, you have beautiful blonde hair, would they take offense? Yes, she did actually. Which is unfortunate because she reported me to the headmaster, claiming that I was stroking her hair. Miss Peabody, she teaches French at the same school I teach. Her accent is appalling, coming from Wales or Poland or somewhere similar. I explained to the headmaster I did not touch Miss Peabody's blonde hair. I was explaining that her hair is blonde. I like blonde hair. It reminds me of the sun and therefore of me, a golden ray. Her hair was shiny and her hair was soft. So, very, very soft. And the headmaster said, how do you know her hair was soft if you didn't touch her? And I said, I know soft when I see it, and I see it very often. And he replied quite aggressively, saying, I know you touched her hair. And then I said to him very reasonably, you are a fucking idiot. Which he was, so I have no idea why he took offense. I was always taught to be honest. And then he sacked me. How petty. So, I'm no longer teaching Latin at a private boys' school. Of course, I don't have to work, because my father left me a fortune. But I believe sincerely in educating people. Also, I had a bit of a trouble with my computer, and a nice little man phoned me to say that it had a problem, and that he was able to fix it for me for consideration. He needed my credit card number. I was concerned about this at the time, but the nice little man promised me he wouldn't tell anyone else, which was completely reassuring, so I felt completely confident in giving him the security number on the back. Strangely, he found that the problem was more complicated than he had first anticipated, and that I would have to pay a rather large fee to fix a problem that I'm afraid I didn't quite understand. Something about twisted wires. It was all over my head, I'm afraid. I'm a brilliant academic, not a techie. And then an awful lot of money disappeared from my bank account. I was unsure at the time why he needed my bank account number as well as my credit card, but he assured me it was absolutely necessary. When I told my son, who was a computer whiz kid, he said that I was a fucking idiot and I should have asked him. How could I have asked him? He might have thought I was stupid. And then I said, and where did you learn language like that? And he said, from you. And I said, you're grounded. And he said, well, that's a lot more than you are. You can't let the young get the better of you. So I sent him to bed without any supper. Of course, it doesn't work as well these days. He just ordered a pizza. I was always taught to stand on your own 2 feet if possible. And after the terrible time I had with the computer, it wasn't possible. I did imbibe more than I should have done, and I found that I couldn't stand on 1 foot, let alone 2. Hands up. I lost a lot of money. So I also teach Latin when called upon. So if you happen to know anyone who would like the odd Latin lesson, see me afterwards. Reasonable rates, and I can come at any time. Please, for Latin lessons, I can come at any time for Latin lessons. Yes, I can see how your mind works. Barbas tennis sapientes. And that means... well, I'm sure you all know what that means. I really mustn't talk down to you. I do tend to use a lot of Latin phrases. I just can't help myself. I speak that language like a native. So your expression seeps into my conversation. I find some phrases very poignant. For example, in vino veritas. In wine, there is truth. I am an expert on wine, as you would expect. What is it you guys are drinking? Oh dear, dreadful, dreadful stuff. I can see you're going to need a bit of education. So, learn from the expert. Did you know that certain wine tastes better in the correct glasses? Yes, it's true. I mean, the thickness matters, as does the length of the stem. Experts know these things. Now, when I'm asked out, and puzzlingly, this is very infrequent, I always bring a case of assorted wine glasses with me. After all, you never know when you're going to need it. I'll just put this over here and make sure it's nice and secure. Why, just the other year I was invited to the Ponsonby Joneses' house for dinner, and I asked them what wine we were having with dinner, and I went to the table to see what wine glasses I had put out. They were the incorrect glasses. So I smashed them all. See, those glasses were useless for the wine and they didn't deserve to survive. So they would have tainted the wine. Smashing them was such great pleasure. I threw them against the wall and the glass went everywhere. Yes. It was a shame that their poodle cut its paw on the broken glass. But good wine has to be correctly served. And it was ridiculous for that stupid little dog to walk around that white carpet with its bleeding paw. Ridiculous behaviour from an animal. I've noticed that some people are less than appreciative of my efforts. People do not like being in the wrong. They knew that they put out the incorrect glasses and they were in awe of my superiority. I then replaced the broken glasses with the correct glasses that I had brought. The wine was then ambrosial, and I was able to enjoy it, basking in the glory that I had made their dinner party memorable. I thought it was very rude for Mr. Ponsonby Jones to take that dreadful little dog to the vet, and for Mrs. Ponsonby Jones to spend the evening scrubbing the carpet. I found the silence that surrounded me very uplifting. I was then able to enjoy my wine without being involved in any pitiful conversational gambits. Nobody dares talk to me at these events because I am so much cleverer than all of them. And they know this. When Mr. Ponsonby Jones came back, he complained that he had to pay £400 for that dreadful little dog to have his paw stitched up. I thought it was very ostentatious of him to take doggy doodle bits to the vet. He should have just put a plaster on it. And then he suggested that I might take care of the bill. I said, and why would I do that? I saved your pathetic little dinner party by bringing the correct glasses. I then thanked the host and hostess most politely, and I could never understand why they didn't reply. And I was always wondering why the door was closed with such force upon my exit. Of course, now I realise it was to stop the dog from escaping. I then walked home filled with my favourite wine, Nebbiolo. A red grape needs years of aging to balance the tannins. But you cider drinkers wouldn't know about such things. Sadly, a state education is very deficient. At private schools, we teach ourselves the pleasures of life, usually after dark in the dorms. I could have gone to Eton. Oh yes, it's true. But I had a bit of a run-in with the head. You see, I had to be interviewed to make sure that I was the right sort. And the headmaster who interviewed me said, "And what do you want to be when you leave school?" Well, I thought I should impress him. So I said, I wanted to be a film star, obviously. It's the ideal profession for somebody with my good looks. And he said, "We don't encourage self-indulgent professions, Hal. We wish to produce fine, upstanding young men. We would prefer you to be a politician, preferably Prime Minister." And I said, "You want me to be a woman with a penchant for sexy shoes? I don't look good in dresses, and high heels hurt my feet." And he got rather angry at me, and he said that I shouldn't be wearing high heels, and that I clearly had a shoe fetish. And as fetishes go, that was a bit tame for Eton. Well, I had no idea how you caught a really odd fetish, and I felt that my formicophilia was a little bit ordinary. So I kept my sexual urges for caterpillars to myself. He thundered at me, and he said, "You're not the right sort for Eton." Well, I had no idea how he came to that conclusion, so I said to him very reasonably, "You are a fucking idiot." Which he was. I didn't get into Eton. I had to go to a lesser private boys' boarding school, who accepted me when they realised my brilliance and my potential, and that my parents could pay the fees. I ended up teaching at my old school, which is very pleasant. I enjoy a circular feel to life. Yes, geometry is exciting. Plato idolised geometry. I'm enraptured by Plato's theory of forms. After all, Plato argues that non-physical but substantial forms or ideas represent the most accurate of reality. I mean, Plato's own views are very much in doubt, and if you stick around after the show, I could teach you so much. But Plato's own views are very much in doubt. However, it is considered the classical solution to the problem of universals. The problem of universals. That problem keeps me awake at night. Isn't education wonderful? It causes insomnia in academics. But I am so pleased to have all this knowledge. It helped me to attract the right sort of wife. Highly intelligent. Oh, of course, I'm so sorry, but it's true. I do have a wife. Yes, my wife. My wife, she is highly intelligent, well-educated, and appreciates my fine mind. She's a lawyer, very high-powered. But that's not why I was attracted to her. She is beautiful. When I look at her, I don't notice the crooked nose. She fell off a horse when she was young, and it was never straight again, nor was her nose. And I can assure you, she has a mustache waxed once a month. For the first few days, her top lip is wonderfully smooth, but then afterwards it does get a little bit stubbly. I've never mentioned it. It's better not to. I have a great tact and caring way with women. Actually, I did mention it once, and it was a very painful experience. Lots of tears, lots of screaming, but I soon recovered. If I'm honest, and I always am, the mustache nearly put me off her to begin with. But as she had a rather large bank balance and had a boob job shortly after we met and 34B became 38 double Ds, I suddenly didn't notice the mustache so much. It's interesting that she likes having surgical work and a bit of a filler here and there, because her name is Aurora. Classical name, of course. Do you have any experience with Aurora, the goddess of dawn, renewed her beauty every morning? No? Of course you wouldn't. Okay, give me a moment, I will give you an explanation. You see, Aurora was the goddess of dawn who renewed her beauty every morning. Obviously not with a boob job or surgical work. We're talking mythology here. She was married to Tithonus, who had immortal life, but not immortal youth. One has a certain sympathy for Tithonus. I mean, women can have that effect on one. I sometimes feel quite shriveled up myself. The woods decay and fall. That is the opening line for Tennyson's poem about Tithonus. Tennyson was a poet. What an educator I am. I have 2 children and they are both at private schools. They are exceptional. I thank God for my 2 blessings. But I'm not religious, of course. I feel they could have been formed by angels. But then I remembered that they were formed by me. Harold, named after the Byronic hero, Childe Harold. That first example provided the first example of the Byronic hero. Do you know anything about the Byronic hero? No? Okay, don't be upset. I shall explain to you. You see, the idea of the Byronic hero is one that consists of many characteristics. The hero must have a high level of intelligence and perception, is able to easily adapt to new situations, and is able to use his cunning for his own gain. Are you listening, dear? There's a story to this. Now, as far as this description proving that this hero is highly intelligent, it's rather clear that the gentleman, the hero, is rather sophisticated in his style. Is he sounding like me? Yes? No? I can see you're agreeing with your silent eyes. Seems totally in agreement. However, besides the charm and sophistication that this automatically creates, the hero struggles with his integrity, being prone to mood swings. And, well, anyone who has teenagers will understand those mood swings. If you say good morning to Harold, he sees it as some sort of insult. And this Rainbow is unable to look up from her phone to acknowledge the spoken word. But I can forgive them and all of their faults. Harold is so clever and so technical, I can hardly prise him away from his computer. He spends hours and hours locked away in his bedroom. He was in touch with the Pentagon the other night. And then there's my other little darling, Rainbow. Such a pretty name for such a pretty girl. She speaks about things that I've never heard of. Methcathinone, mescaline, all sorts of clever words. She is so good at chemistry. I can see this as her future. She speaks about mind-changing, or is it shape-changing? Young people are so innovative these days. Yes, I have 2 brilliant children. I'm so pleased with them, but I wouldn't expect anything else, less with me as a father. We are such a happy family. We have wonderful holidays together. Our last one, I took us all to a high-class campsite in Wales. Do you like Wales? Ah, oh, she does. She nodded. For those who couldn't hear at the back, I'll remember that. So, I said, the first thing in the morning, I said to my two adventurous children, but after I managed to wake them up, which was accompanied by loud complaints about tyrannical fathers, I asked, shall we go for a walk? No, they replied. Shall we go fishing? No, they replied. Shall we hire bikes and go for a bike ride? No, they replied. Well, where shall we go? Home, they replied in unison. But why? I asked. We're having such a wonderful time. It's beautiful out here. There are trees, flowers, streams, birds, caterpillars, butterflies. It's nature at its best. It's hell on earth, they said. No Wi-Fi. So there you have it. That's my life. I wish I could say it was a perfect life. I deserve the perfect life. Would you give me the perfect life? No? Okay, what about you, madam? Would you give me the perfect life? You? Oh, I'll address you, ladies, later on. Yes, but where was I? Oh, yes, that was it before I interrupted myself. I'm sure these little cracks that have appeared in my perfect life can be papered over. I'm being stalked. Now, this is hardly surprising because I am so attractive to women and they just can't help themselves. They just throw themselves at me all the time and I just have to say to them, stop immediately. I am a married man. But I am a man and sometimes I can't help myself. You could get lucky. Anyway, it's not anything to do with me. It's not my fault. I didn't start this. I'll tell you about her later on. But first, I must talk to you about Aurora, my wife, that cheating cow. I found out that she was cheating on me with another man. Can you imagine any sane man wanting to be with her with that mustache? It must have happened on a waxing day. It's the only thing I could think of. It's the only thing that makes sense. She was embarrassed telling me. Oh yes, she was embarrassed confessing. She begged for my forgiveness. She begged. She grovelled. She got down on her knees. And I said, don't even think of it. No, that's actually not true. And as you know, I am truthful all the time. I am a prince amongst men. What she actually said was, I think you're the vilest man on this planet. Well, I thought I was unlikely. How could she have met all the men on the planet? I came back with a quick riposte. I said to her, how, you fucking idiot, you've ruined our perfect marriage. And she said, I hate you. I've always hated you. I only married you because I thought you were rich. I think you're a disgusting, pompous, self-opinionated, repellent little man. I said, I'm not little. And she said, oh, yes, you are. Well, I knew then she was unhinged. I mean, I'm 6'3". Would you say I'm 6'3"? Listeners look like 6'3". Yeah, I mean, how tall are you? Maybe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I knew at that point that it was no use talking to her. So I went to see him. I stormed into my ex-boss's office, the exact office where he had fired me 6 weeks prior. He was sitting at his desk looking stern. He's a small, thin-faced man with a black mustache. It's not as luxuriant as Aurora's. I mean, few are. But when the two of them are kissing, it must be like Velcro bonding. Ugh. Ugh. I said to him, how dare you fuck my wife? And he said, "She's leaving you." I was surprised by this. She didn't say that she was going to leave me. She said I was discussing pompous, self-opinionated and repellent. But that's normal. I'm used to that level of abuse. It never occurred to me that she would leave. I said to him, "You are a fucking idiot. She would never leave me. We have 2 children to think of. She would never leave the children." "No," he said with an evil smirk. "She's taken the children with her." Oh, I hated the thought of my children being looked after by him. It was abhorrent. Little Harold with his important US connections, and little Rainbow with her important chemistry experiments. I love my children. I am the perfect father. Why should he have them? Then I had a brainwave. It came to me in a flash. You won't have forgotten how clever I am. So I said to him as cool as anything, "All right, you can have my wife, my Harold, and my Rainbow, if I can have my job back." And he said, "No." And I said, "You're a fucking idiot. That was a good offer." And he said, "I can have your wife and your children without giving you your job back. You fucking idiot." I could see then he was a tough negotiator. So I said, "All right, I'll throw in Mr. Whiskers, who is a fine ginger moggy." And he said, "No thanks, I'm allergic to cats. You can keep Mr. Whiskers." It was as if he was conferring a prize on me. I never liked Mr. Whiskers. I never liked Mr. Whiskers ever since he peed in my shoes as I was getting ready to meet Angelica. I haven't told you about Angelica yet. Well, I have. She's my stalker. Now, what happened was this. I left the ex-boss's office feeling very bruised. He had taken my family and as a sop left me with a cat. I was very disappointed that my clever negotiating had come to nothing. So I wanted a glass or 2 of red wine. Nothing cheap. I wanted a good grape. Too good for you cider drinkers. I went into this wine bar that I've never been into before, which was very peculiar. They were selling wine for less than £40 a bottle? Cheap rubbish! But it was the only bar I could find. I walked through the door and the barman said, "Hello, Raymond." And I said as quick as a flash, "My friends call me Ray." And he stared at me. And I said, "How do you know my name?" And he said, "Everybody knows you. Everybody's talking about you, Raymond." He emphasized Raymond. I don't know why. "Aren't you the fool whose ex-boss has run off with your wife, taken your children, and had left you with nothing?" I said, "You're a fucking idiot. You know zilch. I've not been left with nothing. I've been left with Mr. Whiskers, who is a fine ginger moggy." That told him. That shut him up. And at that moment, a woman sidled up to me and asked me to buy her a drink. She wasn't beautiful, but she didn't have a mustache. So I bought her a small glass of red wine. It wasn't an expensive glass, but I wasn't sure if she was a connoisseur of wine. It would seem like a waste. It would seem foolish to waste a good wine on her. I'm not proud of what happened next, but as I'm honest, I feel I should tell you that she asked me to go home with her. I thought about this as she pressed herself against me, and she pressed herself against me, and she pressed herself against me, and I thought it would be rude to refuse what she was offering. I'm always polite to the ladies. I wasn't sure if she was a lady, but I went home with her anyway. We had an amazing night. I won't tell you how erotic it was. You wouldn't want to know the details. Actually, I imagine you would. I had never known a night like it. If I'm honest, and I always am, it was awful. I had no idea that a woman could pass out after one small glass of red. I couldn't rouse her. I patted her. Nothing. I shook her. She slept on. And so, I'm sorry, madam. And so I poured water all over her. And then in the morning, she woke up and she demanded money from me. And extra for the water ruining her mattress. I'm not an idiot. I know what's what. I gave her all that I had. And now she's stalking me, demanding more. She must think I'm a soft touch or something. If only I wasn't so attractive to women. Madam, please, I understand. You just cannot help yourself. And now I'm getting a letter from Aurora demanding a divorce. She's acting for herself. I should have never married a lawyer. But I had no idea she would be so greedy. She wants everything. Apart from Mr. Whiskers. I've got a solicitor acting for me. Did you think I would take this lying down? Oh, no. If that fucking idiot thinks that he can take my wife and my children and leave me with the cat... Oh, shit. Come on. He's very much mistaken. Harold and Rainbow are mine. It might take some time to get custody over them because, Rainbow has taken her experiments a little bit too far, and now she's been arrested on some trumped-up drugs charge. And poor Harold is awaiting deportation to the US over his connections to secret emails from the Pentagon. I didn't realize he was interested in those emails. I had no idea he was interested in military secrets. He never played soldiers when he was little. I will get custody of my children. Until then, I'm living with Mr. Whiskers. He's okay, actually. He's grown to sleeping in the same bed with me, and I've grown rather fond of him. He and we have a lot in common. I sometimes reach out to stroke his soft whiskers and think it's Aurora. As for she and my ex-boss, they seem happy, and I'm pleased for them. Yes, pleased. I mean, I'm not one of those people who holds a grudge. No. That's what a private education does for you. It gives you a nobility of spirit. He's obviously ignoring the mustache. The fucking idiot. Thank you for watching my show. Thank you.